right, so we're going to go ahead and officially open our public hearing for 2024-25 Code of Conduct. It is 6:18 p.m. And with that, I will turn it over to Dave Kilgores, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, who facilitates the Code of Conduct Committee to outline the changes. You'll notice there are a few changes because we just had a legal review and a pretty intensive review and adjustments the prior school year, this current school year, with our Code of Conduct. So with that, I will turn it over to Dave.
All right, so I'll keep it pretty brief. We'll just go straight through. So on page 7, you'll see there was some changes to the additions to the tobacco products and things, and that's just in there in red line. This should also apply to any other same similar or illegal substances, just to ensure that they grasp everything. Also on that page, you'll see under the weapons piece, it included BB gun and paintball gun, the red line in there. On page 12, you'll just see we just made, again, another change just to indicate where the different new administrators are listed under the Dignity for All Students Act coordinators. Brings to page 14. You'll see some changes where we're taking some stuff out here. Just again, just a notation of what is not considered danger, because it's already included what is considered danger.
Just to clarify, for those not familiar, Vaders, violent and disruptive incident reporting, we're required to complete that for New York State Education Department every year. So for those listening to this remotely or the recording, that's what that means.
On page 32, we talked about how page tobacco products and weapons are under prohibited student conduct. We're on page 32. Red line in there, but
Page 20.
Oh, it's on page 20, thank you.
I'm looking at page 20.
So that's updated up there, I gotta check that. So page 20. Ours is 19. Oh, there you go. I'm sorry, I don't know why. Pull 32 page. It was okay. 32 is under. Right. Completely wrong category.
Bullet 32.
It's bullet.
It's bullet 32, not page. And you can just see that, again, it talks about any vaping, nicotine-containing devices, other tobacco products, etc. Similar tobacco products. And then weapons, again, we just indicated so where it's defined under section 4 of definitions.
Dave, this question?
Yep, sorry.
And this is coming from a law, just the definition of assault is any act committed by a person 3 years of age or older that constitutes a felony under Article 120.
Say that again?
I just wonder why it says assault's only defined by what constitutes a felony. That's a pretty high standard under 120.
Because, and that would be under the violent and disruptive, that's based on state reporting, so that's how they're defining it. We also have what would be considered just
Physical assault.
physical contact.
It was just, it seems strange that they designated that because it's pretty high.
Yep.
Yeah, that's hard.
Page 40, yeah. Again, other infractions, principals may impose a range of interventions. Additions there, and again, we added there to add the addition of restorative interventions may include efforts to resolve conflict, misunderstanding, or dialogue. So it's just other things we've added in there.
So as you can see, I know there are 2 board members that sat on the Code of Conduct Committee. There's not a lot of change, which is good because from a consistency standpoint, things seem to be working okay based on the feedback we've gotten and the training that we've done. So we would open up for any additional questions. It doesn't look like there's anybody here from the public.
Just have one question. I was one that sat on the committee committee. I thought it was great, a lot of good feedback. There was one topic of conversation that was discussed, and the choice was to remain as we are in the policy, and that has to do with cell phone usage in the buildings. I know our current code of conduct prohibits that in anything that other than high school and junior high, I believe. But I guess my more question is, there's a lot in the media, not that that matters, but there's also a lot of articles, studies, and data coming out nationwide of effect of phones in the classroom and just in being in the building for students. And my more focus is academics and the effect of academics on students, but also now the social, emotional, mental hygiene of that. And as I've seen some studies and actual research published, is that something that will be continually reviewed and perhaps a topic of discussion for future years? I only bring that up because there wasn't a lot of hard data for us really to discuss other than the topic, and I just want to make sure we're keeping an eye on actual evidence as it comes out.
So when we went through in the committee and it was brought up and we checked it, I did speak with the building administrators to get their input on it, because they're the ones enforcing it in the building, and see where we're at with those things, as well as look at some of the policies, or I should say, code of conducts that other districts have implemented regarding cell phone use. And when you really look at our code of conduct and how it's written in there, we have the ability to, through building discretion and building principles, to allow or not allow the cell phone in the building based on, their discretion and enforcement of it. And I think there will be further conversations as time goes on, but one of the biggest concerns was the enforcement of it based on, even if we were to take away cell phones, if staff members are not enforcing it in a certain way, then it's not going to matter anyways, right? So the big piece was that we have to figure it out so that it would be enforceable. So even with the policy we have now, staff can say that they don't want those cell phones in their classroom, but they need to enforce it, because that's under this, code of conduct that we have now.
So one of the things that was mentioned at a joint PTA meeting, and we've been soliciting topics for future community cafes, because I do believe personally that if there is to be a major change from where we're at currently, we definitely need that feedback and that buy-in. We need families and parent support, because we were a no electronic device school for a long period of time, and then things obviously loosened over the last couple of years, 10 or so years, and to try to, I know there's schools across the country trying to bring that back in, but I think unless we have that critical conversation with our families so that they understand why the need, if that's the direction we go, we just need everybody on the same page. So I would anticipate before there being any type of large change, we would have that data to support whatever decisions.
I love that, especially looking at the community cafe model. I think that's a decent conversation starter. But perfect, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? So this code of conduct will appear on the July 1st reorganizational meeting and the regular meeting following that for approval. All right. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it just has to be, we can vote on it 30 days. So it may be, we'll see if we get it in before that, if we have a need for a special meeting, otherwise it'll be on July 1. We'll plan on printing if there's no other concerns. So we can officially close the hearing for the code of conduct at 6:27 p.m. and we will move right into our public hearing for the district safety plan, SRO, and SRPO agreements. And so I will pull that up, and we have Rick Borber also here, our Chief Operations Officer, and Tiffany Turner. So I will pull up the information that I have here with the changes, just in case there's more detailed questions. But as you'll see here, most of the changes to our code of conduct, our district safety officer, we coordinate with OC and BOCES, really does a lot of this work in keeping us up to date. Most of the changes to the plan that you'll see as it's being proposed are additions or deletions based on titles and individuals. So as we made that shift with our organizational chart, you'll see those adjustments. I don't know, Rick, if there's anything that stands out in your mind other than that, or if the board has any questions. I will say that SRO, SRPO agreements, we will continue to update as we finalize, but we are anticipating the same number of SROs as we had in prior years. I know there's a lot of rumor out there regarding SROs and SRPOs because of the budget and waivers for the 211 waivers and where they stand as individuals. But as you know, we maintain our program in this proposed budget that the community will adopt, hopefully successfully tomorrow, and we prioritize safety in all of our buildings. So we might have to get creative if the Baldwinsville Police Department and the Onondaga County Sheriffs can't make things work with the waivers, but we have a plan A, B, and C in the works, similar to other schools. If folks can't get waivers, we likely might have to have those individuals serve under our lens as opposed to the law enforcement agencies. It's not the most ideal, but we've been working with the various agencies to try to make things work. I have a meeting scheduled coming up here with the Onondaga County Sheriff that's been arranged through the sergeant so that we can make sure I've already been in communications with the chief.
Joe, is the state just slow on the 211 waivers, or are they actually denying them for us?
So they're approving the 211 waivers, but the issue is there's a cap because whatever the language was when the governor signed, unlike school employees, if we go back to the same agency that you're working in, you're going to be capped under the retirement system.
Okay.
So some folks are able to make a little bit beyond 35,000. Others, depending on where they retired, could be less. So I know working with Senator Wynn's office, there's some legislation out there that they're trying to potentially increase that. I know they have, what now, 10 days maybe left of this legislative session. So we'll know more at the beginning of June where we stand and whether we have to take that on. It is unfortunate, but like I said to the SROs, we will do whatever we can. I know the board's supportive of, we have to have policy that allows us to hire some of these individuals to maintain the consistency in the buildings. We can do that, but both the chief and the sheriff, they recognize that it works best if it's under their jurisdiction. So if we have to update the safety plan with a new plan based on where we go, I just want families to know that they're going to be here next year. Any specific questions? The last thing I will mention for safety plan, is that a lot of the details are obviously not here because of that. Our safety and security measures we have in place is not a public document, but we've done a lot to emphasize safety this year, and I don't know if you wanted to mention that, because I know that's come up.
Well, I just want to say, so our current safety officer, that's a part-time consultant.
We coordinate through Sambosi, so he is here, how many days a week? 3 days a week is the service that we provide.
Was that many days?
Yeah, and he does our fire inspections and maintains our files here, but we're definitely in a good place with Brandon's direction. Been helpful.
I think there's just potentially a next step here, to have somebody as a full-time person who could have semi-supervision over the SROs. Because I'm not sure, one thing, I have these SROs are all in different buildings. I'm not sure how much cross-pollination or best practice discussions there are among them. I think that a person could do that. The other thing that I'm not sure how we address is harassment incidents on buses. I know it's reported, we have film and stuff, but I don't know that we have any ongoing schooling to help bus drivers or attendants deal with this. So I just look to maybe take another step in our safety and security one of these days.
We have, in this budget, we have built in the additional position, whether that's filled because it's all about the right person moving forward. We do have that position. Tiffany reminded me the other day that we did set aside some funding. And then we still have the SRO position, SRPO position for Vivo PD, the one that started and then left, we have to fill that. So, we'll see what, but at a minimum, we will make sure that we have the 8 in all of the school buildings, but hopefully we have the ability to grow as our community is supported. In the threat detection systems, just to give a quick update because it does relate, it's gone very well from the feedback from the secondary buildings at Ray, Durkee, and Baker, because we've implemented the new Evolve systems there. I honestly have been quite impressed with Ray and Durkee and able to make it happen so quickly. And I think, just the experiences of what we lived at the high school made it easier for those administrators. And I anticipate it being even easier when we get to the elementary schools. That's likely to happen at the beginning of June, because we want students and families to experience that before we leave for the summer, so that it's an easier start to the next school year. So it's been positive. That'll be our last hurdle. But the training that our staff have received from the company that's our SROs, they talked about that at the SRO meeting this past week. They've been really impressed with the training, and I feel like we're in a very good place.
And Joe, I feel like the school years ago took steps to, in terms of best practices, to modify buildings, get down to one entrance. And those steps have all been taken from what I can see in every building, where you have everything locked, there's one point of entry and access. The buildings, some of them were even modified. Do you see any, do you feel like it seems as though we're up to where we need to be in that area?
We continue at every building project, and this is part of the conversation as we do the capital projects. When we touch a building, how can we better enhance security, safety, everything from the cameras to the threat detection. So that'll continuously be a conversation as we design, right? Next stages, even at the high school, with the athletic entrance being adjusted, there's conversation about where the threat detection system will go and how to better make it flow from the student experience. Because our goal is to have kids enter the building just like they always would, and there won't be that delay that sometimes we get because of what they're carrying on their person. And that also ties into our school supply list that will go out. We'll be communicating really what are the haves and have not type items to basically make it for smoother entry each and every day.
And just to follow up too, I feel like we talked about this at one of the facility meetings, but the window protection, the film or covering, whatever it's called, has that been completed or is that?
We do have film that is bullet resistant on portions of our building. I don't want to get into specifics just because of letting people know where it is, but that has been a priority to Jeremy's comment earlier. Like over the last many years, we've been adding those enhanced features to make sure that our schools are safe. And to that point, to having the SROs and our police officers, SRPOs, I mean that when you look at the research from what they've communicated, I mean that right there is the most effective thing that schools can do, besides the connecting with students and the social emotional learning and making sure that you have threat assessment teams working together. I think I shared with all of you in the Friday letter this past week. I received a nice thank you from the Onondaga County, given our staff's participation in that on that committee, and just the thoughtful ideas and suggestions as they've navigated that. So that I think is a good thing for us, staying ahead.
I just have one question. With the consultant that we have from BOCES that's here for 3 times a week to do fire safety, all that, when we do our threat assessments or our building inspections specific to safety, are the buildings SRO involved with those walkthroughs and inspections
whenever, yes, the SROs. In fact, anytime that we have a lockdown or lockout drill, all of our SROs go to that building, and so they're assessing every single drill. Looking at Rick we just had a drill in one of our buildings last week, and the SROs are quick to respond afterward with any minor adjustments or updates, so that we're all on the same page. So I think that's been an added bonus, that having somebody from outside just come and do that work all the time. We have our own folks that are basically on a daily basis doing those assessments as they walk around the building. Perfect, thank you.
And just to add on with that, every year the building principal has to review the building level plans with members from their safety team from the school itself. And then they sit down with the safety officer in order to go over changes for the year. So we did the district level plan. Building level principals will be meeting with their teams to do their own building level plan. And they'll sit down with the safety officer, but the SROs are definitely part of those conversations, reviewing plans.
Not to get too much deeper, but just, I had a quick question about our buildings and in the lockdown drills. Do we have updated doors with locks in the classrooms? That was part of the data as well.
Yes, yeah. Anybody, this is public information, right? If you walk into any of our classrooms, there are the quick button locks. We adjusted that, a year and a half, 2 years ago?
2020.
2020, just before COVID. Any other questions? It's 6:40, we'll officially close the public hearing on our district safety plan, SRO, and SRO agreements. Thank you.